In this video, I am going to introduce the concept of array. Just as a one-liner summary, you can think of array as an identifier that can store many data items together under the same name. Now, how to do that? Of course, we have to follow some kind of rules for that, or some kind of mechanism to enable that, but well, that offers a lots of benefit in a programming environment or software development environment. What type of benefit does it offer? Let us say you are designing a software to manage a university database. So let's say you are managing a software, writing a software to manage a university database, and that university has, let's say, 1000 students. So, and if you want to, let's say, if you want to work with the name of these 1000 students, what is your option? Well, one option is to use each of their name, initiate one variable for each of their names. So let's say s name 1, s name 2, s name 3, s name 4, and then s name 1000. All right, so this is one way of doing the things. But do you think you can manage 1000 different variable in your program? And exacerbating the scenario, let us say at some point of time the university actually ramped up their recruitment, and now the university has 10,000 students. How are you going to manage your software? Right now, you have to use 10,000 different variables to store each of the students' name. So instead of 1000, there may be 10,000 variables. So can you manage that? Well, of course not. So in these places, in order to manage all these similar type of data items, array can be helpful. And instead of utilizing these thousands of different variables name, you can just use one variable name and then use some kind of indexing mechanism to access each of the variable. Now let us try to visualize the concept of an array with an real world example. Let us assume that you are a receptionist in a restaurant, and the restaurant is really very busy, and every day in front of the restaurant you got a long queue of customer like this in here. So and when you need to manage that queue, you have two different options. The first option is basically you need to know each of the customer's name. Let's say this customer's name is Alice, this customer name is Bob, then Charles, then David, like this. So you need to know the name of each customer and then manage the queue by calling their name. For example, well, Charles, your table is ready, or Charles, you are not supposed to be in this position or this location, something like that. So you need to manage with their name. And then there is a second option where instead of knowing any of their name, you just call them person 1, person 2, person 3, like that. So let's say you start with 0, and the person, whoever it is, it may be Alice or anyone, the person who is coming in the beginning of your line, you are calling that person as person 0. Then the next person who is coming in line, you are calling person 1. The next person who is coming, you are calling person 2. The next one is person 3. Something like this. So whenever you want to do like that, you can call that, well, instead of saying Charles, you can say that, well, person 2 in the queue, your table is ready, or person 2 in the queue, you are not supposed to be in this location. So whatever thing you could do by knowing their separate name, individual names, you can do it just by using this name person and then an index, which is basically the location of that person in the queue. So in this case, you really do not need to know their name individually, and your job becomes much easier. You are just using a common name called person and then the location of those persons in the queue. The exact same thing happens in the programming also, in a Java program also. So here also, let's say you want to store 4 different integers like 5, 9, 22, and 6. Well, just to start with, I am saying 4, but it can be 40, it can be 400, it can be 4,000, it can be 40,000 also. So anyway, so you have 2 different options to store these 4 variables. Either you can have 4 different variables like I0, I1, I2, I3, like this, and you store each of the value of each of these variables like this way. But well, once again, as I have told, since this is only 4 variables, it is okay. But whenever it will become 40 variables or 400 variables or 4,000, 40,000 variables, it is going to be unmanageable in this way. The same thing happens for the second set of data items also, where I want to store some characters. So you can have like character variables C0, C1, C2, C3, C4, or whatever name of your choice, and you can store the values inside them. All right, so this is one way which is not manageable when the number of data items are many more. Now there is another way which is called array. Just like that person queue, in this case also you can use a same name to store each of the data item. So let's say in this case I am using the name array1. So if you want to store the variables, I mean store the data items inside array1, you have to use the name array1. Then inside a opening and a closing box bracket, you have to give an index number, the index where you want to store that data item. For example, in case of array1, I want to store 5 in the index 0, like this. So what I am writing, array1, and inside box bracket, the index 0 equals the data that I want to store. The same thing in index 2 of array1, I want to store 22. So what I have done is array1, inside this box bracket, opening and closing box bracket, I wrote the index number, that is 2, and then store 22 inside it. The same thing happened for the next array also, which is for which I decided to take a name called array2, but you can choose your own name. So here it is array2, and then in the index 0 I want to store a, so that is array2, inside opening and closing box bracket 0, store a in here, equals a. The same thing, it is array 3, inside the index 3 I want to store in, so that's why I wrote like array 2 index inside this opening and closing box bracket, this is 3, and then I have stored in. And well, I think there is a small typo, instead of t it should be array 2. So this is what an array is, and now on this index you can do lots of different operations with array very easily and very conveniently, and we are going to clarify those concepts in the next few videos.